Okay, so welcome to my YouTube channel, and the only reason I'm smiling is because I have done this intro like 1,000 times. First off, my neighbour decided that they were going to then cut the grass, so I had to stop it. Then my daughter texted me, so I had pings going on it. Then the third time I had a coughing fit. So this is the final attempt, and I am not using this one. It will be used. So welcome to my channel, and it's really lovely to have you here. Drop a comment in the box below and let me know where in the world you're watching it from. I'm in Christchurch in Dorset in England. I live by the sea. So where do you live in the world? Let me know in the comment box below, and I always respond to all the comments that are left. So welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are a regular here, then it's lovely to see you again. And if you're new here, then hello. And really great that you're here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon, and that way you'll be notified the minute I post any new crafty videos. Today we're going to be looking at tatting, and tatting is something that is similar to lace making, but we use a shuttle, or you can do needle tatting, but today I'm going to show you how to do it with a shuttle. And it is something that I've been doing a lot recently, and it is a really fun way and a different way to use your paper beads. So if you're one of my paper bead followers, then this is a great project for you to use your beads up. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello and welcome to another Squeaky Chimp tutorial. And today I'm going to be showing you something different. So it's not paper beads, but it's something that I've been doing recently. And if you are a member of my Facebook page, you'll see that I've posted a few things on this, and a few people have said that they would be interested in finding out some more about it and how you do it. So there are lots of videos on YouTube all about tatting, which is what this is. It's also called Frivolite. In some European countries they refer to it as that, but I know it as tatting, and it's a form of lace making. So I've got some examples of it here, of bits I have made, and depending on the size of the thread that you use will depend on how big your piece of lace will be. So this is quite a large piece made with this thick nylon, all the way down to this really small piece which really stretched my eyesight. And this was made with Elizabeth thread size 40, which is not really my preferred size. I prefer Elizabeth, which is this one, size 20. That's what my eyes can pretty much cope with, so that's my go-to size of thread. But when I first learnt to tat, this is the very thread that I learnt with. And as we get into tatting, and as I go through how to actually do tatting, you'll see the reasons why. And I used this exact thread in this exact colour because it was so much easier to kind of understand what you were doing. So I've got some examples here of things that you can do, and in one of my tutorials I'm going to show you how to make this really simple little flower motif, and as you can see you can then join them together to make something much bigger. So from something very simple you can make something larger, and I've obviously got more to make on here. And then you can make little butterflies which you can easily attach to like a little paper clip or something like that you can turn them into. You can turn them into Christmas decorations. I made a load of these in white with some very pretty beads at Christmas, and I added them to my Christmas presents just as a little extra gift, and people can then add them on their tree. And for those of you that are joining this because you're one of my paper beaders, you can make your own beads to go on these, and I've done that and they look amazing because you can really customize them and choose the papers you want to go with them and decide everything about your whole bead. You can make it. So you can also, once you've got to really grips with tatting, you can make something like this, and this is something that I've been working on for a while, and it's a doily with viola flowers in, and I haven't quite finished it yet. I've still got another round to go, but this is the kind of thing that you can make, but that's not what we're going to be making today. Today we are going to find out what you need in order to tat, and we're going to look at some of the basic ideas and principles of tatting to get you started, and then in the next video I will show you how to make a basic motif. So let's look at what tools you're going to need. So one of the things I really like about tatting is that you don't really need a lot of resources. A bit like paper beading, it's not where you need some great big machine, you don't need to spend a lot of money on it. What you need is a shuttle if you're doing shuttle tatting. Now there is needle tatting, but that's not what this one is about. You need a shuttle, you need some scissors, you need thread, and that is pretty much all you need to get started. Other bits come on. You might want something called a Picot gauge when you get going, but to be honest with you, I don't have a Picot gauge. I often use a cocktail stick for my small ones, and then I have the piece of cardboard for my larger ones, but we'll get on to that. Some tatting shuttles don't come with a little crochet hook attached to it. I call it a crochet hook because I'm a crocheter as well, but it's just a little hook. Some don't come with those attached, so you might want to get a small crochet hook to help you when we get to it. But if you buy one that comes with one, then you don't need to worry. Now there are lots of different types of tatting shuttle available. Most of them come with a removable bobbin that you can put your thread onto, and then you can slot it in, and they quite often come with maybe 2 or 3 bobbins, so you've got spare ones. Pop it in and you can just pull your thread out as and when you need it. So that's your bobbin type one. This one is a very similar one, and it's a bobbin type one, but it's a metal one, and you can just wind them back up when you need to get your thread back in. So you can wind your thread out, and then you can wind your thread back in. So you can just pull it out and then wind it back in as you need it. The other style is this one, which is one of my favourite. It's a magnetic one, so they clip together with a magnet, and you can either use it like this, so you just wind your thread round it, or it comes with 2 bobbins that you pop in with your thread on, and then you use it that way. And on this one, instead of winding the thread, if I just pull the thread off, what you would do is you would, to wind your thread back up, is you would pop it back through here like so. And I really quite like that, like little clicking noise. So that's what we need in order to do some tatting with. And then you also need some thread. And as I was explaining earlier on, I started to learn to tat with thread like this, which is beautiful. I love thread like this, but I found it really tricky. And if I made a mistake, which I kept doing when I first started, and I still do now, it's really hard to undo that knot. It's very difficult to unpick it. Whereas if you're using a much thicker thread, it's much easier to undo it, and it's also easier to see what you're doing. So in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you the basics of tatting to get you started. And then in the next video, which I'll upload a bit later, and I'll put a link in the description box, I'll show you how to make our first project, which is going to be something like this. So hold tight, get yourself a cup of coffee, and I will show you how to do some basic tatting. Okay, so when you're tatting, you will either have a shuttle and a ball, or you will have a shuttle and a shuttle. So you'll have thread round both of them, or you'll have your shuttle and your ball. For this instance, when we're just learning how to do tatting, we're just going to have our shuttle. And in order to load your shuttle up, what I've done is I have passed my thread through this little hole that's here, which just holds it in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that into that little hole for now. And then I'm going to wind. Now this type of shuttle does come with a thing you can hold in order to wind your thread up, but clearly I wasn't prepared enough for that and I left that downstairs, but I'm just going to load up some thread on here just to show you, adding some thread. What I love about this thread, this colourful one, is how it changes, and we're going to really use that to help us in a minute. So I've got enough thread on here for now, so I'm going to pop that in there. And what I then do is I'm going to pop that knot into my little hole. So I'm just going to poke it in, and hopefully my crochet hook will, the other side of it rather, will fit on, and then it's together. And what you'll notice about your tatting shuttle is that the ends are very close, and this is when it holds your thread in place. And when you know you've got it in the right place, when it makes that noise when you move it over. So what we're going to do is I've loaded up my shuttle with my thread, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my ball thread over here, and with the thread going away from me, I'm going to pinch it in between my hands, and I'm going to roll it round, and I'm going to roll it around my finger, little finger, and I'm going to hold it in place. Now once you get going with this, you'll find your own way of doing this and your own way of holding the thread. This is what I do. And the area in which we're going to work is this area here. Now, in order to make our first stitches, we're not going to be making any patterns today. All we're going to be doing is learning about our first stitches. Now, what I want you to really pay attention to is the fact that the thread that's on this side of my hand has got green and a bright blue on. The thread that's on this side of my hand has a pink and a purple on. So in order to make our first stitch, what we need to do is we need to come under the thread. So I'm coming under, and I'm going to go, so I'm coming under the thread, and I'm going to go under this thread, like so. So my shuttle has gone under. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my shuttle up, so everything else, nothing else in my hands has changed. All that's happened is my shuttle went in, under, and it's going to come back going over. So can you see that I now have a loop on this thread? But when we're dealing with tatting, what we need to do is have our loop on this thread. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the tension off of this a little bit, and instead of this being nice and taut and this being loose, we're going to flip it like so. Can you see how now we've got that pink colour on this, and we're going to slide that down, and that's the first part of our stitches. And that's why using this different coloured thread really helps. So let's make the other one of those stitches. So that's the first half. The second half, instead of going under, we're literally going to go over and under. So instead of under and over, we're going over and under. So with the thread still at the bottom now, so not at the top of the hand, underneath, we're going to pass our crochet, our shuttle over the top, and we're going to come under. And again, remember, we want our loop not to be on the green blue side, but we want it to be on the pink purple. So can you see how now I've got it on my pink purple? And slide. So I'll show you again. What we're going to do for our first one is we're going to come under, so our thread comes over our hand, so we're coming under, and we're going to go, let's get a little bit more thread off. I'm going to come under my hand and we're going to go under this thread here, switch it up, so under, switch it up and over, getting it off my finger, and I have my loop on this side, but I need to switch it over so that my loop is on my pink thread, and bring it down. And for my second one, I'm not going to be going under, we're just going over. So the second one I always think is a lot easier. It's just going over, so over and under. And remember, I don't want it to be the green one, I want it to be the pink one. And the reason we want it to be like that is because we want to be able to move this thread up and down. So we can make this loop bigger, we can make it smaller. And when we come to making our rings or our chains, we want to have this thread that our stitches are on to be able to move through it. So let's have a go at that again, and I'm going to show you what it looks like if you don't do it quite right. So remember, for my first part of my stitch, I'm going under. So I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to flip it. I'm going to bring it down. And can you see how I've got the wrong colour on this side? So when you're using this thread, you can really see which is the right colour and which is the wrong colour. This now means that if I try and move this thread to reduce this circle, I can't do it. And the reason why I like using this thread to learn with as opposed to this thread is that if I make a mistake, I can use the little hook just to hook it back open again, and it's much easier than it is to try and undo a knot that's on that other thread, that tiny thread. You can see how it just pops undone. I can put my thread back through and I'm back again. So I'm back to this. So we'll do another couple more. So we're going to go under, pop it in, through, and then pull this thread up towards the back so that that loop switches over, and then bring it back down. And what I'm using is this finger here to pull that thread outwards that way to bring it down. And then we're going to go over to do our second one and bring it down. And now we've got 3 little hoops, 3 little stitches on our thread. So this is how we would do a chain. So this would be a chain where we're using the ball of the thread and we're using this thread. What we can do is we can make things called picots. And one of the ways that we can make picots is by putting something in the middle. So if I put something here, and a picot is just a long loop. So if I put my cocktail stick here, I'm going to be making a small picot. So I'm going to under, bring my thread down to the picot, like so. I'm going to go over and through. And now I can take my picot out, pull my stitches up together, and you can see that I have a small loop. Now that is a small loop. That's a loop that we might use when we want to join 2 areas together. So I'll show you what I mean. So on here, these hoops are joined together, and we don't need the hoop to be very big. We just want a small little hoop so that we can join them together. So we would make a small picot. But if you want to make a large picot, that's not a problem. You can either use a picot gauge, which is where you might cut out a piece of card to a certain width, which I'll show you. So I'm just going to use one of my cards. So I could use this. So I'm going to get my thread. And I'm going to put my card in the middle. And I'm going to under, bring it down. Remember, I'm now looking at my thread going, okay, so I've got orange here, green here. Green is on my shuttle. I know I've got to have that on the top. And then my second stitch, like so. Take my gauge out. And now I've got a much larger picot. And that way you can make more of them and they will all be the same size. Because I've made picots before and I've not used a gauge, and I'm never very good at gauging how big they need to be. I always think they're going to come out right, and I'm always going to think that I'm going to guess that and estimate that length right, but I never do. But when you use a picot gauge, it means that all your picots come out the right size, which means that you get a really pretty decorative pattern. And if I just bring in my doily here, you can see that I've used picots at the top, and if I put it on the right side, I've used picots at the top here. These are little decorative picots. These are decorative picots. You can use them for all sorts of things. So we might use like a cocktail stick just to do a small join one, and we might make our own one for this. Some patterns you get will tell you what size your picot needs to be, and you can buy proper picot gauges, but I kind of like to use whatever I have available to help me out. So what we've made so far is a chain, and what we've made are some picots. Now in tatting, if I bring back this is a chain, and this is a chain with a picot in it. But these little loops here, these are called rings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we make a ring, because a ring is made slightly differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I'm actually going to reverse my work so that I have this thread on the top, and I'm going to squash my things together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out some more of this thread, and I'm going to wind it around my head. But instead of it going over here and me having my thread like that, I'm going to bring my thread back up here so that I've made a loop around my finger. And now I'm still working on this area, and I'm still looking for that green thread now to be on the top. But I'm now just making my loops in this hoop. So what we'll do is we're going to make one, and you want to make sure, can you see how I know I've done that wrong? Because my yellow thread is on the top. So if you feel like you've done it wrong, just release it a little bit, let a bit of tension off, bring it back, lift it back up so you get your green one to come down. And this, using this thread really helped me. So I'll do my second one, like so. And what I'll do is I'll just do a series of these just to show you what it would look like. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll also talk to you about the fact that in my Etsy shop I have got some kits that I've put together with some tatting in. You get some of this thread, you get over 10 meters of this thread, you get a tatting shuttle, metal one, you get some beads, you get some instructions, and you get a couple of picot gauges as well in order to help you. So if you're interested and you like a kind of beginner's kit with everything you need to get started, I'll leave a link in the description below. So what you can see is that as I've been doing it, when I started my thread was all the way around my fingers, but but where I've used it up, it started to get smaller. And this is a really good example of the reason why we switch those stitches, because what I can do now, if I wanted to carry on, is I can pull my thread and I can get a bigger loop, so I can now put more stitches on. So if I wanted a bigger hoop, I could make one. But for this example, I'm going to leave it there. And what I need to do now is I just need to hold my stitches, and I'm going to pull my thread, and I'm going to close my loop up like so. So you can see I've now made a ring. So I have a chain and I have a ring. In order to carry on with my chain, I need to reverse my work. So I've once again got my ball thread on the top. So I'm going to wrap that around my finger, and again I'm going to be working on this area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my first stitch, and remember this side's now green, this is yellow, orange, and I want to make sure that I've got that right colour coming down. And I'm going to pay extra attention to this one because I want to make sure that my little knot gets in the right place. Hopefully you can see in the sun. And then I'm going to do my second stitch. When I'm doing tatting, in my head, I am always counting 1, 2. 1, 2. And if I need to do 3, for example, 3 stitches, then I would do, and I know you can see I've done 2 here, I would be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In my head, I'm counting, and that way I know if I am in the right place. So quite often I'm watching TV or doing something, you know, or talking whilst I'm tatting. And sometimes it's easy to get distracted. And sometimes, especially when you're working with much finer thread, when you've done a stitch, and I can see here it's wrong, so I'm just going to whip it back up. When you're working with finer thread, it's quite hard to always see what what stitch I'm on. Am I on the under or am I on the over? But if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is stitch number 7. So I know that I need to do my stitch number 8 in order to get back to the right number of stitches. So this would be 9, would be the under, 10 would be the over. So now I've done 5, 11, 12. It's just the sort of thing that I do in my head. You may find that useful, you might not. So what we've got here is we've got a very basic we've got a very basic 2 chains. We've got a ring, we've got a couple of picots that we've had a go at making, we've got a super tiny picot, and that is what I would recommend you keep having a little practice at, keep having a go at, till you get that whole movement of under and over and switching that thread up, because that's where people quite often find that they can't do it, is when they don't switch the thread up. But when you're using this multicoloured thread, it's really easy to see which one is which, and you know that you always want this one to be on the top when we're doing these ones, so you can see whether you've got it right or not. So that is the basics of tatting with a shuttle and a ball. Okay, so hopefully you found that tutorial helpful. That was the basics of tatting, and it should hopefully give you a good idea of how to get going with it. I know that there's a lot of people out there that have tried it and have got frustrated with it, so hopefully the idea of the sort of two different colours of the thread will help you. And in the next video I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas decoration, or you can actually kind of use the decoration for anything really. So stay tuned for that video. If you liked this video, then please leave a comment in the box below and remember to like it. It really does help me to grow the YouTube channel, and it means that I can start to post some more videos up, and it's also really nice to know that you're interacting with me, and I always try and comment on all of the posts that are left. So I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.